Awesome. So hi everyone and welcome to Puppy Eyes. Before I get starting, I'm just going to run you through what we've got coming up. So I don't actually have a session next week for the first time in ages, but the week after is, so along the lines with that anyone can draw an elephant, we have anyone can draw a tiger, and you can draw this. It is actually unbelievably simple. And it's all just about proportion, so we'll be covering that. And then I've got a couple of nudes that I've added. You might notice I draw these in colour pencil. It's just because I get through my dark pencil so quickly, so use a bit of colours before I buy some more. For those of you who've not drawn with me, although this colour and what you're doing is probably in black and white, I'm going to draw in 3 colours. This just helps to illustrate to you where to shade lightly, where to shade dark, like medium, and where darkly. So I've got orange for my light shading, red for my medium, and brown for my dark areas. If I try and draw in kind of like light tones here, particularly for when I'm marking things out, you won't be able to see them. So that's why I do them in the colours. Right. Enough of my talking, I'm going to get cracking. So even if you're doing something quite simple like our little puppy, you still need to give yourself some kind of plan to start off with. And because these are cartoon, we're going to exaggerate everything that we do, so that the bigger the eyes, the bigger, like the further down the ears, the sort of the smaller the paws, everything like that exaggerates to make our puppy cuter and cuter. So we're going to start off in the middle of our page and we're going to draw a nice big circle. This really doesn't have to be perfect. These are just our guidelines, but we're doing that in a really pale kind of pencil, so you can only just see it. Once we've done that, because we've got this kind of angle, this slight angle, we're going to draw a line just going slightly through our circle. Again, these are just our sketch lines. They don't have to be perfect. And this just makes sure that when we do our puppy, things are even and we don't have like a bit of a Picasso going on with one eye up here and one eye down there, and sort of, yeah, all a bit wonky. So we've got our head, we've got our sort of middle line. We're going to do another smaller circle. So we're exaggerating the proportions of our circles, and we want to find the middle of this big circle. I'm going to do another circle in there. And then a third circle about the same size directly underneath it. This is going to be our body. So normally we wouldn't have these sorts of proportions, but because our puppy, we're playing with scales and things like that, we can today play with these. As we go down underneath this circle, we're going to put a little line that it wants to go at a right angle to that middle line that we've done. We're going to just draw, that's going to be where our puppy's feet pretty much sit, and we're going to do 2 small circles just like that on either side of there. When I do these sessions with kids, I always say we go wrong at the beginning with our guidelines so we can go right later. So if you need to do a few lines and you need to correct them, that's why we're doing it now. If you've gone a bit wonky like I had there, I know I can follow that inside line instead. Okay, let's go back up to the head, and what we want to do is know where to put our eyes. So again, at a right angle from this line here, just above where our muzzle is going to be, I'm going to draw a line right the way through. This is going to be like where our big puppy dog eyes are going to go. And for now, we're going to do 2 big circles, the same sides with a little gap in between. And this, again, is just the positioning of our eyes. Okay. Still not looking that puppy-like, so we need some big floppy ears. And what we want to do is create these kind of big, I suppose, spaniel kind of ears. They're going to come from where this line is here to, actually, if it would help you, you could put another line across there and almost like two mug handles. These are going to be our ears. Final kind of little shape that we want to do at the top of our circle here, little triangle. That's going to be where our nose is going to be. We're going to have a mouth going down here. Because our puppy is looking very sad, we're going to have a little mouth curving down. If you want to do a happy puppy, curve it up at the edges. So these are pretty much all of our guidelines done. We can put in a couple more, or we can leave it like that. We will, for today, put in a couple more. So we've got, our legs are going to come down around the chest. So we're going to put in a little kind of curved V here. And just from behind this little handle here, we're going to do almost like a teardrop shape. And the best way to do that is a little circle and then two curves off of it. That's going to be our tail. We might have a few little more details that come up as we do our drawing. They might be, you know, a little extra paw is needed at the back here, or a little bit of shadow, but we'll work our drawing along and see how it progresses. So these are my pale guidelines. And from here, I'm going to move to my red. So this is now the sort of lines where you can see them clearly. They're not going to be as dark as our sort of like deep shadows and our black nose, but it is going to, you're going to be able to see there, and you're going to start to put in some shadows and some details. First thing I'm going to do, which is, you know, it's even the name of this picture, is these puppy eyes. As you can see, although we have drawn circles in, that's mainly to get us to think about the position, whereas what we want to do is actually create these, they're kind of almost triangular. So we're going to straighten off the inside of both those eyes. We're going to kind of curve down and straighten off that underneath. And then what we want to do, so they've got those like real kind of sad eyes, we're going to curve down, but we want the inside bit here to really be quite high. And that instantly creates this kind of very sad and soulful eye shape. Okay. Again, we're going to have our puppy looking up, because that is another kind of way of creating these very emotional eyes. So we're going to pop two circles in. We want to do big circles. When we're trying to do sort of appealing kind of things, we have them really big. You can do them a little bit smaller like I've done there, or you can do great big ones. It's up to you. But before we start to colour those in and alter them, we want to put in our catch light. So whenever you're drawing any kind of animal, it's that little highlight, which is called the catch light, which is what really brings your drawings to life. And so wherever you decide to put it, and it doesn't really matter, keep it on the same side as one. It's on both of them. It's the reflection of light on the eyes. So, and then what you can do all the way around it, leaving that white, is just fill in with a medium shading. And straight away, we've got these really cute little eyes. We go. Straight away. Very soulful. We'll come back and we'll add the real dark tones to that in a bit, but there we go for the minute. Next thing down is our nose. We've really simplified that with this kind of triangle that we put in, but just like with our eyes, we're going to shave little bits of it off to create our nose. So we have got this rounded top, still a triangular shape. We're going to curve those in, and then we're going to come down. We do have a point at the bottom, like that. So we can again block these in with our medium shading. You can also, if your dog's got a little bit of a wet nose, I forgot it on this one, but you can leave a little reflection there as well. If you want to give him a wet nose, if he's got a bit of a dry nose, then you can shade the whole thing in. It doesn't really matter either way. We've got our muzzle here. And what we're going to do, because he's fluffy, we don't want a big solid line. We're going to do a little zigzaggy line, but not sort of like really mad, because this bit generally isn't the fluffiest part on puppies. We're going to do just a few little kind of, they're quite shallow little zigzags. When we come to the other side and the rest of him, we'll have them much more exaggerated, but this bit isn't as sort of long haired as the rest of him. So although this is a cartoon, you do try to stick to some of the rules. And then on the other side, you can, if you want, with your medium shading. We're going to come back and work on that some more, but you can put in that side as well. And then of course they have that little chin. Generally they tend to be a bit fluffier. They have that little beard sometimes, so you can go a little bit bigger there. So now we've got the basic kind of features in. We can start to work on our face shape. So although we put a circle in, they're actually kind of elongated and wider at the cheeks. So if you want to, what you can do is find where your ears start, and just underneath there, start with your medium kind of shading stroke, or sounds like I'm painting, your medium kind of head weight of stroke to sort of start to create our face in. And then we're going to actually bring the head up a little bit. So just about 1 centimetre above where our circle is, we're going to start to put in our head, the top of our head. And I'm going to give him, he's going to have a few little kind of like baby hairs sticking up. From there, we're going to pop in our ears. Again, it's just this really simple zigzaggy line. Bring your ears right up to your head. They're not kind of detached and floating. And bring those down right the way until you meet your body. Same on the other side. Everyone okay so far? And give me a thumbs up if you like. Okay, no one wants to talk to me. You're all busy drawing. That's fine. Oh, yay, one. Okay, so next we're going to sketch in our body. And again, with our little shallow zigzaggy line, we're going to come down with our legs. We're going to pop in our feet and our tail. So we've got that little kind of rounded V. We're going to come down It looks quite good if you have one side lower than the other on this. It works because you would have the lights coming from this direction, so you would have more shadow on this side. So that kind of works. And then we're going to go round our body and to our feet. So don't go over the circles where your feet are. You're just coming down to meet them. And you're going to be higher. You're going to have little shoulders that come down to sort of thin, like, are they ankles or wrists, just before the paw. So up into our head, coming round, and then a little bit narrower where the legs. It doesn't matter, because this is a cartoon, we're not going for realistic. It doesn't matter how big or small this is, but you want it to be the same width on both sides. And that's the tricky bit. A good way of kind of always matching things up is by taking a pencil and pinching it where the thickness is, go over to the other side, pop a little mark where your thumb is, and you know that way where you're aiming for. So there we go. I've got one narrower shoulder than the other, so I'm going to match that up. I have to sit at a really weird angle when I do these, so what looks like it's straight to me from the angle I'm sitting is then wonky when I look at the camera. This is all going to be in shading, so it's better to correct this side, because we're going to go over it, than this side. Finally, over here, we've got our tail. When I say finally, I mean we finally get to it. And then we've got our paws. So where we've done our circles, our paws are going to kind of come down. We're looking at this puppy from above. So you're going to see the tops of our paws rather than sort of front on. So the toes you see, do 3 toes. That's all you kind of need. And if you want to, if you feel like you can pop in a little bit of a back paw there. Right, so this is our kind of planning. We're still at that planning stage. We've got some illustration in and some details. And what we do now, I'm going to switch over to my darkest pencil. So these are going to be the really dark areas. This is where you're going to go over your light shading, go over some of your lines. Some of your lines you'll keep in your medium shading, and other areas where your really dark shadows are, that's the areas that you're going to use your, really press quite hard and work on those. So first thing we're going to do is go back to our eyes. We've got the outside of the iris to do and the pupil, and we're also going to kind of darken down those eyelashes and that eye shape. So I'm going to go around the outsides of both my pupils, and then I'm going to pop my iris in. So that needs to sit kind of in the middle of the eye. Again, with the pupils, the larger you make them, the more you're kind of doing the cute, appealing look. I'm going to do that on both sides. So your catch light will probably sit in slightly different parts of your pupils, which is kind of normal. That's how they work. And then I'm going to go over my eyelashes. So particularly if you've got a girl, this is a girl dog, you can put a few little eyelashes shooting out from, so I'll draw them in just so you can see. If you're doing a girl dog like that, this lower outside, you can also do a couple like that, but don't sort of do masses and masses. You don't need it. You kind of just need a few here and there in the right places. Going over on both the eyes like this. I'm gonna, just because I've done one side, I'm gonna make my my dog a girl. Obviously, that's a little optional thing. You can have a girl or a boy dog. So it's funny, isn't it? We are all so kind of, I want to say brainwashed into knowing if something's got those eyelashes, it's a girl, and if it doesn't, it's a boy. Too many cartoons we've seen. For our nose, we're going to follow the outline that we did. We're going to go round, so we've got that curved top, triangle bottom, and then we're going to put in 2 little marks either side for the nostril. And then I'm going to do a shade that's not as dark as that line I've just done, but a bit darker than what I had done before, and just give the front side of my nose a little bit of shadow. Once I've done that, I'm going to go down into my puppy's mouth. So curving it downwards if we're looking for a sad puppy. And if you want a happier puppy, you just curl up the ends on either side. We're going to do the shading on the puppy's head in a bit, but for now we're just going to go over and get our really dark lines in. So the light's coming from this side, which means the shadow will predominantly fall to the right-hand side of our pup. So what we want to do is all this ear under here, and this side of the body is going to be where it's dark. Our shadow will fall down here, and also there'll be a little bit of shadow under in this area here. So I'm going to use a lot of pressure with my darkest shade, and keeping that rough kind of sketchy finish to him or her. We're going to block in that under that ear as shadow. Looks a bit weird at the moment, but once we've got the rest of the shadows in, that will start to make sense. I'm also going to go along this body and under this ear here. So keeping my zigzags, I'm going to go under there. We don't need, even though it's cartoon, we don't need really thick, kind of like dark outlines, like the darkest colours we've got outlines, because that's not what you kind of get in real life. And your drawing improves when you realise that you don't need kind of like those thick lines all the way around. I've got this really dark shadow coming out to the side, so I'm going to just pop that in, coming round the paw. And I'm just going to kind of scribble that away to the side. So this is the sort of darkest point of the shadow, which is closer to our pup. This inside this paw is going to be in shadow as well. And have a little bit of shadow underneath the tail, but not that much. And we're also going to have shadow in the eyes. So what we want to do is just shadow the sort of, with our darkest stroke, we shadow just under the eyelid with the dark lines. And then I pick up a pale kind of colour. I'm going to go back to my orange. So with a really pale, like you did with your guidelines, I'm going to put in shade. So we'll have shade on this side because of the eyelid, shade on the inside because of the roundness of the eyeball. So that's the same on both sides. It's funny, isn't it? You can draw the same picture so many times, and every time just the slightest difference. So where I've done the eyes so much bigger, it looks so different. So I'm just like everyone else, I draw I might draw the same thing 6 times and every time I do it, it's different. Okay, we've got our darker areas in. So now we're going to put in some of the sort of medium shadow. So I'm going back to my red. This is the sign for you guys to do a kind of mid-grey. And we're going to start off by shading around the eyes and over the top of the nose. By putting that little bit of shading in there, it pushes the nose outwards towards you. So first thing I'm going to do, a little bit of shading, that kind of big soulful eye. We're going to have a curve that follows the shape of the head. If you want to, you can get sort of deeper, get your shading a little bit darker around the eyes. And it's going to kind of come out because they have these 4 heads. So I've got this scoop and to a point down there. I'm going to bring it around the eyes a little bit. We've got the same kind of shape, the eye hollow on the other side. So I'm coming up to where my circle guideline was. And I'm going to, again, with a kind of mid-tone, a mid-grey, I'm going to take this all the way out to the side of the head. Now, Puppy's starting to look like he's got a bit of shape to him now. Okay, over the top of the nose, start between the eyes and shading outwards. And also just a little bit to the left of the nose. So we're bringing this muzzle up towards us. So we're going to just do another light to medium bit of shading down the left-hand side of the muzzle. And then we're going to block in all of the right-hand side of the face and a little bit of the chin and round the muzzle. Starting to get a bit of shape now. You can then go back over with your sort of medium pressure and go right along the very right-hand side of the face to give you a bit of shape. And then, like I said, we're going to just a little bit of shading around the muzzle. We don't want to go as dark as we have on the face because then that will push the muzzle back, whereas what we want to do is have less contrast there so that it's coming towards us. And then we've got our chin. So you kind of got the idea. This side is lighter, that side is darker. So I'm now going to leave the top of the ear with a bit of the white showing through and then come down and fill in with my medium shading the bottom of that ear. We can put a few little strands of fluffy hair coming out the top as well. And then it's kind of just judging it as to how dark and how, obviously you can't make it lighter overly, but how dark you want it to be. The other side, however, is, you know, we've got a large area of white here. We're going to have a very tiny bit at the top of the ear, but the rest of it is going to be in our shadow. So I think I'm going to have to sharpen my pencil quickly. And, oh, it's broken. No. I'm expecting this breaks every time I sharpen it now. Oh no, that's okay. So I'm gonna pop in some shadow there. I'm going to get darker in the areas where I meet that dark section that we've done. I might come back with I'll come back with my brown pencil. You guys finish the rest of it up and then have a look and see if you need more contrast and more shadow. Everyone's picture will be different, so I can't give you a real exact kind of to yours unless I see your picture, which when I've done the recording, if you've got time, I'd love to have a look at how you've got on. I'm going to again shade in my tail here. That little back foot, we're going to, if you put that in, we're going to pop that, plus a little bit of shading underneath for our shadow. And then our light will be hitting the chest of our dog. So we're going to have a kind of arc of shadow that's going to follow the body around. Our paw on the right is going to be all in shadow, but most of our leg on the left and our paw, you will be able to see the background through. So definitely starting to look a bit more 3D now. So now's the time where you just have a little bit of a tweak with your shading, darken up bits that need it, and start to kind of work out if you need. So this is still looking quite unbalanced on mine. So I can sort that out, no problem, by bringing my dark shadow. And I'm going to darken his ear over here. This area is going to be really shaded, like that. And also down here, I need a bit of shadow where his ear meets his body. This is going to be the really darkest point over here. This is the most, this area here and this area here are where the most shadow is cast. So those are the areas you really want to focus on getting as dark as possible. And then I can just start to go around some of the tips of things. I can, where I need to darken any edges, put details in that might have been lost with the shading. This little area in here needs to be darker as well. And I would put the darker lines on the right, but leave the slightly lighter ones there on the left. I can put a little bit of shadow and a bit more of my sort of zigzaggy area on the tail, because that will be the longer hair. And then it's really just a case of going back round, looking where needs a bit more of a softer shade brought into it, where it needs to be a little bit more subtle, where it needs to be a little bit darker, and where I've got my shadow down here around the edges. So I've got my darkest area. I'm gonna just lighten this up a little bit. I can put in a little bit of any lost detail you can darken, but don't be tempted to put those thick dark lines around everything, because they wouldn't be there on everything. Okay, so final thing to do is to sign it, as always. So traditionally people tend to sign things down in the right hand side. With something like this, you can sign anywhere you like. You could put a little signature in down here. You could put it around the ear, something like that. And it's definitely worth signing. I'd also, if you've enjoyed your session and you think, oh, I might do more of this, date it as well. It's a really good idea to sort of have a bit of a date, or write it on the back so that you can see how you progress, because the more you do this kind of thing, the more you'll improve. So I'm done with the actual live drawing. I'm going to go to my live painters, live drawers, and have a chat, see how everyone's got on, give them any assistance that they might need. So I'm going to end the recording here and say to everyone who's doing the recording, just like with the live ones, if you guys need any help whatsoever, just pop us a message. We have the Easy Does It Facebook group, and pop us a message with a photo of your drawing, and I'll be very, very happy to give you some guidance or some tips or help you out, or just see how like a brilliant picture you've done. So thank you for joining me, and I hope that I will see you again at another session.